Morning, guys. About 7:38 in the morning. Finally got a good night of sleep last night, but I had to do the melatonin pretty heavy. But at least it put me down deep. I got to train my brain to not get active when I start to wake up. Start to keep, deep breathing and do whatever I can to keep the brain from. Because once my thoughts start going, I start winding up and I can't get back to sleep. It's been tough. So I just posted. I am uploading it right now. Posted I did yesterday in regards to Antifa Kyle and a lot of little roundabout discussion of what's going on in our country right now. And I think it's important for everybody to realize that what Minneapolis has been through and what we've been watching and how we've been dealing with the state, it's a totally different thing today, in our world right now than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or when I grew up as a kid, right? I never had the feelings in my heart that I do now, that it's the citizens against the state, right? And when I say the state, I say that in the negative terms, as the state being a communist state, a fascist state, whatever you want to think. But it is us against the state. And we still have a lot of good politicians on Capitol Hill trying to work it out, but they got to play by the game. And we're in a heavy pickle because, common sense dictates that what is right and what is wrong, right? We've been basically conned by a whole fascist group, of him putting him in all these people, and then look at how many of them are actually a part of that pedophilia. Their names are in the files, right? And it's not just the pedophilia, guys. It's the mental attitude of these people with Trump's help. And behind him, I think they got a hold of Trump back in the 80s, to be honest with you. When he went over there, he's got his own thoughts of wanting to be rich and this and that and make business deals and all that. They used that, and they basically got a hold of him. They probably put him in a room, and with hypnosis and with the whole 9 yards, they basically brainwashed this man, along with being a sick man anyway. They tied into exactly who he was. They had an op. What do you call that? When they do a background on somebody, they figure out exactly what his psychological makeup is, and then that's Putin, right? And Putin got a hold of this man, and then boom, this man worked his way into our politics, and here we go with this grievance politics and everything that's happened is metastasized into a very dangerous thing. It's metastasized into pure fascism, and to be might is right, and to put the thumb down on the public because he's got this little image of wanting to be Kim Jong-un, and wanted to be a tyrant, and that's what he is behind. If it wasn't for our systems, checks and balances, what little we've been able to hold them back. But we're at a point now that I don't think you're going to end up being able to make that work for them, because down deep, they're humans, right? And that being the case, they know when they're right or wrong. And Pam Bondi is a great example of that. Her whole behavior that she had up there, being defensive and throwing things out of burn book and all that crap, is totally not the way we do business. There's a couple people says they think she was totally crazy. No, they're not crazy. They're using human psychology against us, right? And then our system doesn't have that in it, right? It's like the structure of the judicial system. Why does the judicial system one of the few things that have held them in check? Why? Because of the whole structure of how it's been built. It's truth and facts only, right? And when they do that, the judge and everybody's been trained to be this way. And the judicial system has that ecosystem, that culture within it that's kept all this back, right? So it's not an easy thing, but we got to start thinking about human psychology. How do you feel? How are you reacting, right, to this situation? We know the bare bones agenda that each side has. They want to turn it into a fascist state. They want to have the state be on top of the people, and dominance and might is right. And then they're starting to try to get cocky and carry that into the world by going into Venezuela and doing what they did, and going after oil. Every one of our morals that we had have been flipped on its head, right? To where this is so evil that it's not even funny. Right? When it got down to it, all these years that they've been sitting here blaming the Dems and accusing and demonizing the other side, Clinton, right, when she was in office as a secretary and running for president. I mean, all that, the demonization of, and then to turn around and to find out the whole time this whole thing was true, that they were talking about eating babies. How could you believe some of the wild flung things that they were flinging out, right? And yet it turns out that it was true. That they were doing all this pedophilia and doing this with the kids and having their high mucky mucks play this little game and be sitting there drinking at a party with a child sitting there burning them with the friggin' cigarettes. How sick is that, right? Everybody knows it's wrong. Even their side knows it's wrong, right? But somehow that they, on the top of the pile, they've got themselves so twisted that they think they're above the law, that they can get away with that because power of money and everything else and the manipulation they can do on Capitol Hill has allowed them to skirt the consequences of their behavior, right? Just blows my mind. So we all know it. Even their side knows this, right? We have to keep coming at them strong in a very assertive, strength way, just like they did with Bondi when she was up there trying to blast her way through with her negative attitude. Raskin just kept putting her in check, and they were right on it. This is not a game, right? And it's true. It's not a game. It's our country, right? And all we want on our side is we want our country to run, pro-democracy side, the way it has for 250 years, right? And now when this gets cleaned up, and it's going to, we're going to end up overcoming because right and what's right and truth and all that will win out over what's wrong. Evil is not going to overcome, right? We've got a lot of work to do, and it's a scary time right now because these people are like animals, right? Their back is up against the wall. They're like a wounded animal. They get a lot more dangerous. They could do, God knows what they can do, right? I mean, we have no idea what these people will go to, okay? Personally, my opinion, I think they killed Kirk, right, as a martyr. His wife, whatever, that whole thing. Step back and look what happened. They had a celebration afterwards that wasn't a funeral mortuary. It wasn't something to honor somebody's death. They rah-rahed it. I mean, just step back and look at the behavior of these people, right? All the way down to Truth USA or whatever they call that side with Kirk, just blows me away, that we have let this metastasize and get within our country to a point that we need to stamp it out. There's no two ways about it. But it's not easy, right? We know what they want. They want to piss us off enough that we protest and we start getting violent, and the citizens and the population get violent, and then they can squash us and declare martial law and then not have a vote. That's what they want. Right? That's still all about the primaries and then the vote that's coming up. And he wants to steal it. And he wants to put his men out there and intimidate it and just keep playing these games to steal our vote. To get to the point like they are in Russia, where basically Putin has been put into office every time and they don't have any real elections. It's him manipulating everything. That's what he's doing. It's the same model. And they're trying to, so that they can lie to you and that you take it because you know you don't have any strength. You know you have no, because they've squashed that. They've taken away all our rights, right? We still have that available to us. We need to keep doing it. Realize we have the Constitution behind us. They can step on every one of those constitutional rights, and they have. Thumb their nose at the judicial. That's what they're doing. They're slowly taking it away from us mentally. It's all psychological. And if we allow them to do it, see what I'm saying? But we know that Constitution was written to keep us from ever going through what we're going through right now. And it's just barely holding the outer borders. The only thing that's holding it is our judicial system, right? So just keep it in mind. We know what they want. They want to make us mad enough that we blow up. And then you'd have to be like Minneapolis. Those people, we need to have celebrations for Minneapolis when we're done with this. These people have stood up and they basically set the tone. They've set the tone and they've said, no, we will not put up with it. And they've done everything they can to protect their people, right? Feeding them in their home. They're all, look at the stress they're going through. You know what I mean? And look, come back to Antifa Kyle. Antifa Kyle is nothing more than a citizen that's angry and upset and put himself out there as Antifa, which means he's against fascism. And he sees what these people are. They're fascists, right? Look it up. I posted it the other day. What is fascism? All you got to do is ask Google, right? Ask Google, what is fascism, right? And you'll get a really good, concise, and then you look at them. Then stand back and look at what they're presenting to the world and to you and to your life every day with their attitude and what they believe in, right? That's fascism, right? Pure and simple fascism, right? So Antifa is against fascism. We're not a set. I just did it because they want to demonize the Antifa. right? They want to demonize that word, make it like you're terrorists, and they've coined us as terrorists, right? Legally on the books, they've made this. They could come into my house right now and grab me up and throw me in a court and get me for being an anti-fascist, right? Because they know that in the end, you can't stop an ideology. And I've kept trying to tell people, put this on your pages, put it on your t-shirts, put it everywhere, right? So that you could take it away from them. The only reason that it works for them right now is you got one or two souls that are claiming that they're anti-fascist, that they're going out there and saying, I am Antifa. I am one of those. But then what you say online and how you present yourself is very important, because you make threats against the state. Here they come, right? Right? You have to be more clandestine. We have to be more crafty. We have to be, you know what I mean? There's no two ways about it. And realize they own all the tech. For the last 3, 5, 10 years, however long it's been, when we had these encrypted programs of like Signal, right? That we can talk to each other. Nobody can see that but us. I really believe they boosted it up like that on purpose to get us to buy the product and use the product, which is beneficial to the company owner. But they've created a back door for the government. You think that any of our conversations are safe? There ain't no way. Don't use those programs, guys. You got to go down to the bare bones, friggin' on the street type of interaction, right? Drops, the whole 9 yards. Get back into being crafty, because if you don't, they see everything we're doing. You know, they've got me so choked right now. It's not even funny. None of my voice goes anywhere. I looked at my post stream yesterday, and everything is zero. I'm basically they've got me set in a queue where I can post and it looks almost like it's going out into the stream. But they got me choked down to nothing, right? The state, right? So if you're getting through and you're being able to see any of my posts, it's because you're going to my page and you're working hard to find it. It's not going out in the stream like it should, right? They don't want it to be seen by the public, because they know dang well that somebody like me has a voice is making a difference, right? So did Antifa Kyle. He got a lot of people following him. Though human nature being what it is, when he got squashed, they're afraid. So they didn't come out strong. Nobody came out strong behind Kyle, right? They didn't advocate for him. He has no voice, right? That's what my other video is talking about. They basically demonized him, and the state has got all the propaganda. Everything's going against that, right? You don't see our side giving any voice to him. Does he have a lawyer? Is there any? They need to put his sister up there, somebody that's willing to stand out and humanize him, right? Give him a voice. They've dehumanized him, and they've thrown him in a deep, dark hole, and the state is over. It's a perfect example of how it works in fascism, right? Think about how it works in other countries. They throw the poor guy in the prison, and Gandhi got persecuted like that too, and they kept advocating in a peaceful way, and they finally overcame it. But look how many years Gandhi had to be in a jail because the state was over the top of that whole situation, right? That's what we're getting to right now. The state is exerting its power to a point and slowly eroding our rights to where the state can come in and do anything they want to do, right? And with nobody being able to give you a voice, right? That's why we have the Constitution. It says we have the freedom of speech for a reason. Our leaders were smart. They were very smart, because they'd already been through it, dealing with a king, dealing with a monarch that kept him under their thumb, them under the king's thumb. They knew what it felt like. They came over to America to escape it, and the British followed them for money and wanted to take over what we were building here. But it was the people that were building it. It was our struggle through the West of dealing with the Indians and dealing with survival and everything we were dealing with. They were very strong people, right? We are too. Down deep, we still have it in us, guys. We still have it in us. You just don't realize it because you've never had to face it. Minneapolis had to face it, and look how they stood up. Aren't you proud of that? Hell yeah, I'm proud of it. Like a son of a gun. Those people deserve to be worshipped in that regards. I mean, they deserve our power to the people. You know, that's why I'm so enthralled with Kyle, because Kyle was standing up. He was standing up, and he was out on the front lines of dealing with that the state coming down on him so heavy and being so cruel. And that's what it's all about. That cruelty, there's a purpose behind it. They want to tear those families. They want to demoralize. They want to make you cow. They want to cow the populace, right? And if they get away with it, they have turned our country, and think about where we're going to be. Then you got gulags. That's what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to get those big buildings all over the place to create jails, right? And people are so stupid. They think that's just going to be for the immigrants. No, they're going to get more emboldened. Pretty soon they're grabbing anybody that dissents. Don't you get it? That's what's coming if we don't stop it, okay? We have to stop this. And if it turns into a civil war, they've got all the Trump card on their side. They've got the water cannons. They've got all they've got all the force in the world. We're going to have to really fight, and we will. Believe me, we will. We're trying to weave our way through this dilemma in the best way we can, but we are in a pickle. There's no two ways about it. We have to realize the gravity of the situation, and we have to be smart. We have to be smart and intelligent. They own the technology right now. Meta, my voice goes nowhere, and it shows me how much control they have over. Why? Because I am in dissent. I am Antifa, right? And they put me in the same thing because I was around Kyle at the same time. I was messaging back and forth to Kyle the day he got taken in. I had about like an hour conversation of DMs going back and forth and sending pictures of my dogs, and you know what I mean? And boom, they snatched him up, right? They put me in that same thing. They had me throttled. They have me throttled right now. They watch whatever I'm doing all day. They've got me under their eyes, believe me, right? Yesterday I went to go drive out of here, and as I'm driving out of here, boom, my phone rings. Why? They're pinging back to my phone. They've got a geofence around my phone, right? And when it moves, they know it, and boom, okay? How do I know all these things as far as the tech? I used to do high-tech security, okay? I understand where the tech was going and what they have available to them, and it's only getting better with AI and everything they've got available to do. This was 10 years ago that I did it when I worked for the pharmaceutical companies. We were tracking our trucks all over the country. It was when GPS was just starting to get really going, right? And we were putting a little box into the things. You know where the GPS chip is now? In the pallets. It's already there. All we got to do is turn them on and boom, hit the computer, and all the products sitting on top of the pallet, and it moves everywhere, right? And or you can put these GPS devices anywhere in the truck, and it'll track everything, right? We were tracking our trucks with the drugs we were doing. We had a pharmaceutical company. We had all kinds of drugs that we had, all the different ones, all the fentanyl and all of it, right? So bottom line is in the system, it's a 3-tiered redundant system. The cops watch us, and we have to do things by the right way. If we had an alarm go off in our thing, somebody opened a vault door for where the drugs are stored. I mean, these are vaults that you can drive into, guys. They're huge. And so when somebody would do the wrong thing and the alarm would go off because he forgot that he had set the alarm, and he'd walk over and open the door because and boom, the door would open, the alarm would go off, bells and whistles everywhere. All our cameras would just automatically go to that location within the site, right? We could see everything. I knew if you had a badge, I knew exactly where you were at by virtue of where you had badged in, to what door and where you were going, right? In the whole world, I dealt with that for 10, 12 years. I worked what was called security ops, right? Security ops was where we did all the dispatch, right? All the cameras, all the views, all the different cameras. I had a bank of cameras, basically over 300, 400 cameras we had on the site. But we had TV screens, and I had maybe 10, 15, 20 of them sitting there watching these screens all night long, right? So that high tech is something I'm very familiar with. I know what they can do with it. I know what they're doing right now, right? They own the tech. Okay, you can't sneeze if they want to know what you're doing, right? And it's only getting better for them because they're taking away our rights. Back then, we knew what was happening with facial recognition. Over in the UK, they have different, more loose laws and stuff. They don't have the rights that we have had. They're slowly being eroded, but it allows them to have facial recognition, and they put these cameras everywhere, all over the city. And you can't be walking anywhere and not be seen. In our society, the most that they've been able to broach that so far, but I'm sure that it's getting eroded with Trump being in office. I'm sure they're doing a lot of pushy things that are really against our rights, and they're not letting us know it. So bottom line is that nowadays, the traffic cams, you go down and every light has a little camera on the top of it. So when you go through, all that data is available to them. So if they have an accident or something happens, they can review those cameras and go back and use that for their investigation. And our phones have all the devices in them. Think about it. It has GPS. It can track me. It knows where I'm at. Right now when I'm doing this video, I have no idea if they can see my video before I put it out, or if it's only visible. Maybe they can see what I'm talking about right now. A few times my phone has rang early in the morning when I'm sitting here yakking. And it makes me, kind of head trip. Why all of a sudden when I'm trying to do one of these videos, I get interrupted, right? I don't know for sure, but I know technology and what it can do. The only thing that's kept them from using that technology is our rights and our legal systems that say, wait a minute, hey, we're trying to keep the state being proper in how they treat their people. And those are our rights, right? That came from a long way back, from a very smart group of people that had already been through it, right? They'd already had the state over their head, the king, right? And the state being the British. And we had enough separation that we could say, screw you, we're going to be America. And we fought, right? And we went back to what? Very primitive ways of fighting. Instead of having chivalry where all the military came head to head and they just marched, boom, boom, the drums were marching and, hundreds of men would be killed right for the first cannon wave, then the second cannon wave. And we weren't that stupid. We said, screw that. We're not fighting that way. And we learned from the Indians. And we would come at their left flank and their right flank. And we would do anything we could to beat them back. And that's what won. That's how we won. We won by doing clandestine type of warfare, right? That's what's going to end up happening because they've got the state. They've got all the technology. The only way to fight back is to be crafty. To be crafty and to be smart, right? So right now, the biggest thing we want is not to have it blow into a civil war, right? We want that because that's the only thing that's going to keep our country from blowing up and for thousands of us to kill the other side, right? We don't want to. We've already done that. We've already had a civil war. Think about how many men died, right? And in the end, did it make anything much better? No, we still had to work things out. We still had to have things that we did to work things out, right? To go back to civilized interaction, right? So we don't want that. And Minneapolis has been a great example for us, a great, standing up to the state. And then now they are leaving. They're leaving, but they're going to leave enough people behind, and you've got to take care of Whipple and all that. I finally found out something. I asked Google last night about Kyle, and Google gave me a lot more information. And now I understand how people are doing things. And you use the Google, and it works out real well, the AI, because AI is always just very straightforward. I even got a phone number saying where he might be in Michigan, the whole 9 yards. I can call and check on him if I wanted to. I didn't do it, but I've got it available to me if I do. I'm hoping that his loved ones and the people around him are doing what they need to do to get him support. But my biggest point of view that I hope if you guys are listening to this and you know Kyle and you're part of his family or anybody in Minneapolis, please stand up. Start talking. Start doing what I'm doing. Express yourself as his family member and humanize the man. Give him a voice. They're taking that away by throwing him into a deep and having only state news and all this stuff. And you've been chilled because they make you have fear. And so you don't want to stand up against the state. We have to. We have to give him a voice. If you don't give him a voice, if you don't stand up and say he's my brother, he's my and talk about this, and give him a voice and humanize the man, then it's all the state demoralizing and putting him down, and they win. You see my point? And I've done everything I could to try to send messages out. Maybe they've squashed that. Maybe that's the state stopping even my messages going to them, right? I've tried to go through the back door off their websites, everything else, but they've got hackers. They've got full teams of these guys, okay, on their side in the state. So maybe my messages didn't get to them. Or maybe they were so swayed by the voice of the state that they thought, oh, we don't want to touch this guy. This is a hot potato, right? I don't know. But I thought more of Adam Mockler. I thought more of the Midas Brothers. The Midas Brothers are lawyers, right? I thought more of them, that they would see my point of view and realize that what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that this man is an American citizen. He deserves a voice. Maybe he was wrong, but it's because of the heat of battle and all the pressure and the stress that he's been through, right? So that being the case, I'll go ahead and leave it at that. I got into 24 minutes of yakking, but think it through, folks. Learn to step back and see the forest for the trees. Critical thinking. It's very important because without it, you're just a bobbing buoy in the water that has no you're not tied down. Let's put it that way. All right. I excuse my smile again, guys. A couple of weeks ago, a dog broke out the two front teeth, and I need to save some money up to get to the bank. To get to the dentist. Problem is that with today's state of affairs and what's going on with the country, when I say things are getting tough. Everybody's having a problem survive. I'm not the only one. That's all I hear the conversation on the street nowadays. Talk to somebody, they tell me that they don't have money, they don't have this, that. We're all struggling, right? It's because he screwed up our economy bad, and that's what he wants, because that's part of the whole what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose, because we don't have any strength. We have no, they can get us cowed. It's all psychological, guys. It really is. They're cowing the American public to a point where we won't stand up for our rights, right? So we have to be crafty. We have to be smart. We have to think this through and keep coming at them. Don't let off the pressure any way, shape, or form. To our leaders, if anybody ever on the leadership up top is watching this, please just stay at them on every angle. The pedophilia, every investigation, everything we can do, we just got to keep at them, keep at them. We can't let up. We've got to get our system to work the way the system's supposed to work, right? All right, talk to you guys later. Mark Bresci signing off. Have a good day, guys.